welcome back. I'm back. You're back. Hey, we back. Welcome everyone to this episode on the Ultimate Sports TV, guys. The schedules have come out, and free agency and the draft have passed, guys. So we now have a good look at all the rosters in the league, guys. So it's only right to rank these rosters. So in this video, I'll be tier listing all the rosters in the NFL. We got the elite tier, we got the borderline elite tier, we got the good to decent roster tier, we got the okay tier where the roster's not super good, but it's not bad either. And then we got the dull rosters down below where the roster really needs work and it's not really going to be going anywhere during the season, guys. Before I hop into this tier list, please make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Sports TV. Because if you are not subscribed, you're missing out on so much, people. Because this is the hot spot. Get lots and lots of time from the Ultimate Sports TV spot with NBA and NFL content. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and join the TUS TV squad, guys. Then when you're done with that, please like this video for me, share this video and YouTube channel, then comment down below your top 5 rosters in the NFL in the comment section below, guys. Really would love to hear your opinion down in the comment section below. Now let's get to this tier list, and we're going to start off with the teams we kind of know about. We have a good kind of interest in look at the roster in, and we're going to start with the Buccaneers. They're bringing all 22 starters back from their Super Bowl year, and we know this roster was one of the best going into last year. They showed out and proved the roster was really good, and now as we go into next season, they are the favorites again for the Super Bowl, and we know their offense is incredible. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a good running back by committee kind of thing going on with their running backs. They've got good wide receivers. We know they got Tom Brady, and their defense is full of superstars. So we already know the Buccaneers roster is elite. Now let's go to another one here, and that's the Texans. The Texans have a pretty dull roster. Whether we see Deshaun Watson come back or not, the receiving core got weaker. Their tight ends was never the best tight end core to look at. Their offensive line's not good. Their defensive line is definitely not good after losing J.J. Watt. Their linebackers need to get better, and their secondary is certainly not one of the league's best. So the Texans roster is pretty dull. Let's look at some other ones here. The Chiefs roster is a top 3 roster. They'll go in the elite tier. They have everything they need on their roster. The Lions to me are a pretty dull roster. I think the roster is better than the Texans. But their roster is pretty dull. They don't have enough really skill position players unless you're talking about TJ Hawkinson or DeAndre Swift for Jared Goff to work with. And their defense doesn't have all the playmakers they need to really be successful. So the Lions have a pretty dull roster. The Bengals roster, I think it's okay. I like the improvements they made on in the offseason, grabbing up Trey Hendrickson to replace Carl Lawson, adding to what they already had on the defensive line. Their secondary, they lost William Jackson. Their secondary certainly needs work. The linebackers definitely need work. We know their receiving core is probably like top 3 in the league. They don't have the best tight ends in the world. We know they got Joe Burrow, and their offensive line got better, and they have a pretty good running back in Joe Mixon. The Bengals roster is an eye-popping of some sort, but it is an okay, decent roster. Not too good, but not too bad. Now, the 49ers roster, I think it's borderline elite. We were going into next season, last season, knowing that, hey, the 49ers could potentially be good again because of this roster and because they went to the Super Bowl last year. Now, because of injuries, that totally ruined all our predictions about the 49ers, but they're returning a lot of their good defensive starters like Nick Bosa, like some guys they had in the secondary, and their roster is still really good. They've got Brandon Ayuk, who is up and coming. We know George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo are coming back, and they have one of the best offensive line in all of the league. So their roster isn't super elite, but it is borderline elite. Now, the Washington football team, I think they have a pretty good roster. I think the roster is pretty underrated. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, with the receivers, running backs, and offensive line, and even tight ends and coach that he has, should be really good with all that he has around him this year. You have Curtis Samuel, who's a good number 2 receiver. You have Terry McLaurin, who's a good number 1 receiver. You have Logan Thomas, who in my opinion is a top 10 tight end. You have a good offensive line that added pieces this offseason. You got Antonio Gibson back there in the backfield, who was a good running back last year, and their defense is easily top 3. So I think the Washington football team, in my opinion, are going to the playoffs this year because of their coach, because of their decent quarterback, because of their roster. Now, the Bears, I think they have a pretty good roster. What concerns me about them is their offensive line and some sort of like their secondary. They do need some more playmakers in their secondary, but their secondary is really it's average. It's not bad, it's not good, but their front seven is really good. I think they have a pretty nice receiving core with Darnell Mooney, who I think is going to be a breakout player. They've got Allen Robinson, they got Anthony Miller. Their tight ends worry me a little bit. Justin Fields going to be a good quarterback in my opinion. So I think the Bears have a good to decent roster. Now let's start speeding up here. I think the Dolphins have an okay roster. I don't like the front seven. Their secondary is good. I don't like the running backs. I don't like their offensive line, but I do like their quarterback and their receivers. There's nothing that's eye popping, but the reason they are good is because they have good essential pieces on their team and because they have a good coach. So the Dolphins have an okay roster. The Falcons, to me, their roster isn't really eye popping. Uh, but they do have two good receivers in Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. They do have Matt Ryan. They don't have a good running back. Their offensive line is decent, and I just don't like their defense. So their roster is pretty dull. The Broncos roster is okay to me. They could use some reconstruction, kind of like reconstruction on their front seven. Knowing Von Miller is getting older and you need more playmakers on your front seven, their offensive line could be better. I like their receiving core. I like the running back core, but again, Drew Lock is going to hold them back. Uh, the Jaguars roster, although they did upgrade some this offseason, their roster is still pretty dull. I would say the same thing for the Jets. Nothing eye popping there. The Giants, I think they have an okay roster. I like their secondary. I like their receiving core and their tight ends. Of course, I like their running back. Their offensive line needs to get better. Their front seven could be better, but I do like some of their front seven. I think the Giants are going to be a borderline playoff team this season, and I like their roster. I just think Daniel Jones is going to hold them back. The Panthers roster, I think it's a good, decent roster. I like the guys they have on defense. It's a really had a defense with depth and some good starters on it. I like the Panthers roster. The Browns, they, to me, have the second best roster in the league. Now, you got Baker Mayfield, who's easily going to get better this season, knowing he's in second year in a good system with Kevin Stefanski. And then he's got the receivers. He's got OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Anthony Schwartz. They've got the best tight end room in all of the league with Harrison Bryant, Austin Hooper, and David Njoku. They have the best offensive line in the league. They have a good defensive line with Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, and Malik Jackson. They also have some pretty good tight ends. I think Jacob Phillips is going to break out. Linebackers. Jacob Phillips is going to be a pretty good breakout player next year. I think Jeremiah Wusu is going to be a defensive player of the year finalist next year. And Malcolm Smith was a top 10 coverage linebacker last year. And he could also help out the rookies and young players they have in that linebacker core. And their secondary to me is going to be top five this year. They have Ronnie Harrison. They have John Johnson. They have Grant Delpit. They have Greedy Williams. They have Denzel Ward. They have Greg Newsome. And they have Troy Hill, guys. Their secondary is going to be good. Their pass rush is going to be good. I think the linebackers could improve, but I think their linebacker core will prevail to be pretty solid, and their offense speaks for itself. Their offense is going to be top 10, top 7, top 5, whatever you want to name. It's just going to be in the top 10 as Baker Mayfield gets better and we look at all that he has around him. The Browns offense, defense, and roster is elite. To me, the Bills roster is borderline elite. Of course, I like their quarterback. I love their receiving core. The running backs could be better. Their offensive line could be better. They need a better defensive line. I like their linebackers and secondary, though. There's something that's eye popping because I do think they could win the line of scrimmage better, and that concerns me with the Bills because they can't really keep the ball out of good teams' hands like the Chiefs. And if they don't go well in the passing game, then you're kind of screwed up because you can't get pressure on the other team and you can't run the ball to keep the ball out of the another great team's hands. So that concerns me about the Bills. But their roster is borderline elite because they do have some eye-popping talents at wide receiver, quarterback, secondary, and linebacker positions. The Cardinals, I think the roster is okay. Now, people love to rave about their receiving core, but to me, when you look at AJ Green, who is aging, you look at Christian Kirk, who can be up and down. You look at, I like Rondell Moore. I like that pick. Andy Isabella, he can be inconsistent at times, but he's a good gadget guy. And of course, they have DeAndre Hopkins. They've got the quarterback. I think they'll have a pretty good running back core this year. Their offensive line concerns me. I like their defensive line. The linebackers are pretty solid, but their secondary can concern me at times. You know what? I think I'm gonna move the Cardinals to a good slash decent kind of roster because I do kind of like their roster. Now the Chargers, I think they would have the best good slash decent roster in the league. I think they're borderline elite, but their defense and their front seven kind of holds me back a little bit, and they are missing some pieces in the secondary. But their offense is going to kill you this year. They have Justin Herbert, they have a good running back in Austin Eckler, they have a good receiving core, they've got tight end position concerns me a little bit, but their offensive line is going to be better this year. And they've got Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Chris Harris Jr., Pat, not Patrick Queen, but I'm forgetting his name. Please, it's a young linebacker. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting something here. It's a young linebacker that they have. But I like the playmakers that they have on defense and offense. I just think their defense could be better, and I do like the Chargers roster, especially their offense, because I think they have a lot of playmakers on it. I think they have playmakers on defense. And I think this team is going to go to the playoffs this year. I think they have a good, decent roster. And I think that they could be top of the tier in that section, guys. And their young linebacker is Kenneth Murray. He's going to be a good second year linebacker in this league, guys. Now, the Colts, I think they have a good to decent roster. We'll see how Carson Wentz goes. You can still be iffy about him, which concerns me about their quarterback position. The receiving core could be better. I like the running backs. I like their offensive line. The tight ends could be better, but it's a good tight end group. Their front seven could be better. I like their linebackers and I like their secondary. Actually, I think they may be top of the tier in the good to decent roster tier. The Cowboys will also go there. We know their offense is great. Their secondary definitely could be better, but I do like their front seven with their linebackers, defensive tackles, and defensive ends. The Eagles have a pretty dull roster. I'll put them there. Their defense could get better, and their offense has an atrocious offensive line, but they do have some pretty good skill position players. The Packers. Now, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, it's not going to be a pretty sight for them as far as looking at the roster goes. But the Packers are a pretty good roster. They have a pretty good secondary. They have a pretty good front seven. Their offensive line could be better, but it is good. And their skill position players could concern you a little bit because they do just only have Devontae Adams that gives you consistent production. Although Robert Tonyan has been good the past year, he can be iffy and you can have doubts about him at times. Their skill positions can be a little iffy. You know what? I'll put them in the good to decent tier. The Patriots, I think they'll go in the okay tier. Their receiving core could get better. I like their running back by committee kind of thing. Their offensive line is good. Their front seven could get better, but I like their secondary. Uh, man, I think I'm gonna put the I'm gonna have to go back to the Patriots one. I'm gonna have to go back to that. The Raiders, to me, easily in the okay one. Borderline elite is the Rams. I think when you instantly add Matthew Stafford, their offense is instantly going to get better because although you don't have Jared Goff now, you can expand your playbook with Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford doesn't limit you to what you can do on your playbook. You can actually throw the ball more. I like Cam Akers as a second year stud. I like the receiving core. I like their offensive line. I like their tight ends. Of course, I like their front seven with Aaron Donald and all they have on it with Leonard Floyd, Joseph Day, all the guys they have on the defensive line, and I like their secondary. So you know what? I think I might actually put the Rams in an elite tier. I like the Rams roster. I think they're going to be a legit Super Bowl contender this year. The Ravens, they've lost some pieces on defense, but I still think they're borderline elite. I still think they're a great roster. Of course, their offense has to get better with their receivers, and they went out and got Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace. Their offensive line added some new pieces like Kevin Zeitler and uh, Alejandro Villanueva. Their defense, they lost Matt Judon. Hey, they lost Yannick Ngakoue. Their safeties could be better. The defense may concern me a little bit this year, but they're the Ravens. I think they can put it all together with what they have, especially because they blitz a lot. The Saints. I think they'll be at the top of the okay tier. I'm on the edge with the Saints because their quarterback position is definitely iffy. I like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and their offensive line, but other than that, where else do they really have depth other than the secondary? Because they don't have depth with the linebackers, they don't really have depth with the defensive line, or any guy that stands out to you other than Cam Jordan. So you know what? I'll put them in the okay tier. The Steelers, to me, Because the only thing to me that stands out for the Steelers, maybe their running back position, definitely their receiving core, and then their defensive line. Because their secondary got worse. I know their quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger is going to get worse as he is aging, and the offensive line isn't going to be good. The linebackers are pretty good. I'll put them in the okay tier. The Seahawks, I think they're a pretty decent roster. Their offensive line got better with adding Gabe Jackson to it. It's not still going to be a great or good offensive line, but it definitely did get better. We know they've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson. Their secondary is not going to be good. Their front seven's not going to be really good. I think they have an okay roster. I'm gonna put them in the okay tier. That's also where I'm going to put the Titans. This year, they're going to rely heavily on Derrick Henry, and that means you could run Derrick Henry into the ground. Also, knowing you lost Corey Davis and you may not have as many playmakers in your receiving core, although you do have AJ Brown, you don't really have any other consistent target to really go to. And then their front seven, although they did get Bud Dupree, I think will be inconsistent again, especially because Bud Dupree won't have TJ Watt on his side, and they don't really have other depth or good playmakers on their front seven, and their secondary could definitely be better. The Vikings, which is the last team on here, I think their secondary got better. I do like their secondary lightweight. Uh I like their skill position players. Their offensive line could definitely be better, but I like their front seven. So I'll put the Vikings in the good to decent tier, guys. But this is my NFL rosters tier list of 2021. My top four or top five rosters. You know what? I'll put the Bills in front of the Ravens. And all right, there we go. So Buccaneers got the best roster. The Browns have the second best, then the Chiefs, then the Rams, then the Bills, then the 49ers, then the Ravens, then the Packers, then the Colts, then the Cowboys, then the Chargers, then the Washington football team, then the Bears, then the Panthers, then the Cardinals, then we have the Saints and the Minnesota Vikings, and then you can go down the rest of the list, guys. But this, again, is my NFL rosters tier of 2021, guys. Give your opinions about it in the comment section below. And also, don't forget to give your top five NFL rosters in the comment section below, guys. This is Malik Hicks, aka the Rank of the Ultimate Sports TV, signing off. Peace out, and I'll see you in my next one.